Right. I would like to call the city council meeting order to get today at 6 p.m. Today, October 2nd, Monday, we're doing city councilor interviews. We have 3 applicants and the process, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna pick an order here. And when we begin, the 2 remaining will go out in the hall and in the lunchroom, and we'll do the interview with 1. And then after that, that one can stay and listen, and we'll bring out number 2 and then number 3. So we have about 11 questions, I believe. We're gonna go down the list, there's 11, and we're gonna each take turns answering one. Jeanette, if we can hear you good and you have the packet, you'll ask a question as well when it's your turn.
Okay.
You have the packet with the questions, the interview questions in front of you.
Yes, I do.
Okay. We'll go down the list, and at the end of the answer, if anybody has a quick clarifying question or a follow-up question, they can ask before we go on to the next one. Then we'll try to get this done in an hour. And then after that, we will close this work session and begin our regular meeting. And the second item on the meeting is to do the vote and discuss and appointment of the new counselor. So at that time, we will take the vote to discuss, pick a new counselor, and then they'll go right into the oath of office, and we will begin and continue the rest of our meeting. They'll sit right here on the end or right next to Andrew for today. Jeanette comes back to her regular position. They will be part of the group for the rest of the meeting. We will start down Kim and work our way this way for questions, and then Jeanette looks like we'll have number 6. That way she'll get 1. Any questions before we begin? I'm good. Ashley, anything you think we're doing different than the charter or code, let us know.
So far, so good.
Okay, so we're going to start. There's an order here. We're going to go with Ty Bailey, Marissa Jacobs, and John Kangas. In that order. Okay, let's begin.
No, whatever you write down is correct.
Published?
It's just collected. It's not published.
Okay.
It's like 5.
Okay. Okay, in front of us, we do all have your application answers, and you ready to begin, Councilor Holmes?
Well, thank you very much for your interest in joining us up here. We'll lead off with, why are you interested in becoming a member of the Scappoose City Council?
Because I think I can help. Fundamentally, I've been volunteering or doing other aspects as the city needs for a while now, and I like coming up for an interim position because I want to see how I can help the city, as well as whether or not the time commitment is there before running fully.
Follow-ups?
Mr. Bailey, sorry, that seems so formal to you. Hello. Sorry. You mentioned that you're already volunteering currently with the city. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I've been with the budget committee for 7.5 years now, a little over, and I've been with the planning commission for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. Time goes really weird when you have a kid. Just saying.
How long did you say planning commission?
7.5 years.
Oh, budget was 7.5.
Budget was 7.5.
About 2.
Thank you. What unique skills and experiences would you bring to the city council position?
So I am a business executive at this point. I currently manage a global staff of about 120 people. I have an eight-figure operating budget, multiple jurisdictions, different contract structures. I manage legal and compliance aspects as well as P&Ls, budget allocations, forecasting, and then compliance structures for a bunch of different areas. Additionally, I am involved in the broader tech community, both within Oregon and nationally, and have a number of connections for standardization boards, different volunteering aspects, and so on. So I'm used to both having a vertical authority as well as a soft horizontal authority with different teams to accomplish alignment and goals.
Well, thank you. Council President Grayson?
You had mentioned one of your interests in this interim position is just kind of see how it fits. But in the meantime, if you do get this interim position, it can be time consuming. For example, we have our 2 Monday meetings with work sessions beforehand. The mayor would appoint you to a committee that would require maybe a once a month meeting on top of that. Prepping for the meetings by just reading the materials, contacting staff, asking them questions, and meeting with them before the meeting so you're prepared. Would you be able to devote the necessary time to adequately fill this position? And please describe your current time commitments and how you would be able to balance the new position.
Yeah, and specifically why looking at the interim is because I want to make sure that I can cover the commitments. If I were to run or go on ballot, I would want to make sure that I would do a full term. By going this way, I can actually feel the commitments as well. From a personal time structure, I have my work duties, which would take me out of the region once a quarter or so, and some overtime as associated, but not too bad. I can manage that. The bigger one is I do have a child, and we're heavily involved in her stuff. So right now, my spouse is taking her to the scouts meeting that's taking place in like 8 minutes, and we just divvy up appropriately there. For me, it would be feeling out if the time here is really I'm giving back and feeling like I'm helping the community at a level that justifies being away from my kiddo.
I have 3, I completely understand.
Right?
Follow-up? None, thank you. Please explain the council, city manager form of government that we have here in Scappoose. What do you see your role as a counselor being if you were appointed?
Yep. So we have a city manager structure of government, which means most of the actual executive authority is in the city manager in terms of staff management, execution of legislative outcomes, validation, so on. The city council is both judicial and directional in guiding the priorities as well as specific structures, zoning, things of that nature to assist with the city manager in that role. We don't have a strong mayoral system.
And then what do you see your role as a counselor being?
Again, I keep coming back to the I help, but mostly it's assent and advisement. I think that we have a good mix of backgrounds and capabilities, and what the council really represents is the overall community as a whole in terms of their priority, the things they want to bring to the table, and then how we can work together to align that with both the budgetary reality, the legal structures that we have overlapping in the area, and then the responsibility of our city manager in ensuring that we execute on what we put to.
All right. So Ty, first of all, we appreciate you putting your name in for this vacancy. So my question is, how do you feel that disagreement and or debate among city council members fits in the decision-making process?
It's funny, I'm actually currently in my work life running an entire group session on constructive conflict and resolution. I actually think conflict is an important aspect to any negotiation or debate procedure. If everyone's in alignment, it either means someone's holding back or you don't have enough variance in voices in the room. Understanding conflict, but in a way that is non-personal and non-destructive, allows you to find better outcomes through mutual ground and assurance.
Jeanette, are you ready to ask a question?
I am. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So, Ty, what do you think the city of Scappoose is doing well?
I think by and large, the city has done a pretty good job over the past several years in weathering the balance between needing growth and serving the community's local needs in terms of being more of a rural lifestyle. I think the big structure that has been the delicate balance that Scappoose has had for several years now is not becoming just a bedroom community. And I think people spend a lot of time, you all very much included, balancing how we attract jobs that keep people here, keep housing affordable as much as we can, given the like global state of the housing market, and making sure that our children and seniors and so on have a place that's safe and accommodating to growth.
Thank you.
Holmes?
Yeah, so kind of in the same vein, what do you think the city of Scappoose could be doing better?
Um, Honestly, this is where being a counselor would come in handy, is as I learn more and more about the overlapping zones of authority in terms of county, local, tax zones, and so on. It is a real challenge to attract what we, in my mind, would need. More business lines that are larger in scale as opposed to 1 or 2 person businesses, things that can anchor and keep people around. Also, anything we can do to motivate construction of more housing, because the only way we can have affordable housing is to have more housing. So, balancing out again the needs of controlled growth, with the needs of making sure that we can have a place where future generations can actually live, is going to be a challenge ahead of us.
Miller?
Elected, or are you willing to have a nickname?
I mean,
I'm just
my full name is Ty. I'm just putting it out there. So, like,
gonna throw that out there. Okay, now for the real question. In your opinion, what are 3 important issues facing the city of Scappoose?
I think that managing our growth, again, I keep coming back to it, is how we get the housing, how we grow those elements, and also make sure our civic infrastructure keeps up with it is one. Uh, Another is going to be schools and education. We have a bond coming up, but we have schools that need replaced. We need to make sure that we're funding and accommodating there as appropriate. And then I mentioned infrastructure, but just on its own, the actual infrastructure, changing out, making sure that we have sidewalks. As our parking ordinances change with growth, we need to make sure that we have places that people can actually around the city. And then also on infrastructure, so I'm getting a bullet A and a bullet B. I still think that from a tech standpoint, we can use much more growth in terms of our internet capability, especially outside of the city core. We still have a lot of blind spots and areas without coverage, which will limit our ability to attract and grow.
You.
President Grayson?
Ty, sorry, wow.
Nickname, see?
Ty.
Saw it coming.
You mentioned infrastructure with a sub of sidewalks, just basic infrastructure
Yeah.
roads with sub of, just in general
Telecom.
services, and then schools and education, managing growth, and you mentioned internet capabilities. What do you think the city of Scappoose should do to address these important issues?
I think it's going to be a balanced and long road. As a person, don't believe in silver bullets. Nothing is actually going to be super easy. I think we have to look at, as opportunity arises, investment areas. Good example, and brought up at a recent shared meeting on the 50-year plan. If we look at growth for different high density real estate areas, how can we encourage more sidewalk building outside of just that build area? Or, whenever we look at the growth elements, how can we use that as an opportunity to get at other areas that are older? I know we have a lot of water line activity that's being built out. While that's going on, is there an opportunity to do other things that need to be done at the same time?
Cool. Is there anything you'd like to ask us?
How y'all doing? No, just like
That's
How are things? Yeah, I mean, it's new school year, everything's kicking off. How are you feeling about the city?
Ask me tomorrow. I mean, to me, it's, 10 months.
Yeah.
It's a whirlwind and we're learning, but I'm 40-year resident of Scappoose. We know the city pretty well and it's really nice to get on this side of the curtain and see how sausage is made or whatnot, and see that we really can make a difference and every individual here has a voice and a say and can really be important. That's what I see this position. It's very rewarding. Yes, it's very time consuming. You can put a lot into it if you want, or it's little. And I think the more you put into it, the better job you do. But it can be very rewarding. But I still am learning, drinking from the water hose, as they say.
I appreciate it.
Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to share? It's a similar
Yeah,
question. but-
similar thing. Honestly, not as such. Again, I usually put myself out there, partially because I think I can help, but also as previously, in case like you'll see me again if I don't get this one, because I always want to make sure that even if I'm not chosen, there's always someone there that will be available who didn't just show up. So I want to make sure that you all don't have to deal with surprises.
Thank you, Tyler. Hi,
Thank you.
geez, I can't.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's Bailey.
Okay.
Be thinking about your nickname, maybe?
Thank you.
Okay, just continue down the order. She doesn't just.
So Jeanette will start it off.
Yes, Marissa. Please. Thank you, Ty. Thank you for your service. Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
We are going to just continue down the line. And so Jeanette, you will start with you.
Yes. Hi, Marissa. Thank you for your interest. The first question is, why are you interested in becoming a member of the Scappoose City Council?
Thank you for the question. Thanks for having me here. I'm interested because I would like to continue to advance my civic engagement. I have found civic engagement to be quite rewarding. I discovered it about 6 years ago. And in the last 3 years of living in Scappoose, I've become even more involved in different committees and just understanding how our city works and some of the opportunities that we have here as we're sort of at an inflection point, and would like to be a part of the team to provide that partnership and help us solution through and how we can make Scappoose the best place to be. So it's really for me about working with the team and collectively doing what's right for our citizens.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
Briefly mentioned being involved in some committee work. Do you mind detailing what you've been involved with?
Sure, absolutely. So I have been a member of the Planning Commission for the last 3 years. I'm also Library Budget Committee board member for 2 years. I've actively participate as either a spectator and or through public comment on the 50-year Planning Commission. And I also participate in city council meetings I have throughout the last several years by either providing public comment on topics of interest for myself. I've also participated in the open city manager selection sort of process for the community to ask questions a few years back. Also attend like Parks and Rec committee meetings, attend their events that they have throughout the town. So I try to stay fairly engaged and up to date. If I can't attend meetings, I try to catch them on the YouTube. So,
Thanks, COVID.
Right. So what unique skills and experiences would you bring to the city council position?
So I'm an HR professional by trade. I've been working in that capacity for over 20 years. And I believe that my professional expertise has given me a pretty good skill set in terms of being able to work collectively and collaboratively with different types of personalities and different levels within organizational structures. Um, Also very good at synthesizing information and sort of taking it all in, dissecting it, being able to categorize it into sort of that high level, 10,000 foot level of what are we trying to do, and also able to really get down into the weeds and do more operational work. And I think also just being able to help um, mediate heated conversations uh, amongst groups, and also help to bring out sort of the critical points that people are trying to make to keep conversation moving forward. I think I could bring that to the council.
Miller? I just finished up my notes here. All right, Marissa, this is kind of a long one. It says, the position of city councilor is time consuming. For example, bi-monthly meetings, committee meetings, prepping for meetings by reading materials, et cetera.
Mhm.
Would you be able to devote the necessary time to adequately fill the position? Please describe your current time commitments and how you'd be able to balance a new position.
Sure. If I can ask a follow-along question to that, what's the expectation in terms of the amount of time that you think it takes on a weekly basis to dedicate? That would be helpful.
Depends on how large the council packet is that are prepared.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it does change. You never really know. How would you describe it, Kim?
I would say between council plus the additional committee that, you would be asked to serve on and monitor, and then some additional kind of volunteer community stuff or attending other community events. I'm going to say maybe 4 to 5 hours, maybe
A week? Okay. So I was actually planning about 10 hours a week, so I think I'm right in line. So yes, I carry a full-time job over the hill that is more than 40 hours a week, like probably a lot of others. But I have really thought hard about this role and the amount of time that I would need to commit, and realize that I'd be looking at about a 10-hour a month or 10-hour a week commitment. So if it's less than that, awesome. But fully able to and willing to commit and be the team player to bring this work to life.
I do find that you can put a lot of time into it or little, and the more you do, the better the job is done. And I do think early on, it's a lot more than maybe after a year or two, because as you're getting to learn other people and meet, and maybe some of those meetings, outside meetings, you don't need to go to as quite as regularly. But council committee meetings, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point with kind of the onboarding. The city does a great job putting together a packet of resources, digital packet, and lots of tutorials. And I probably spent, before taking this seat, probably spent 20 hours watching League of Oregon Cities. So,
Council President Grace.
Okay. Sorry. I was just listening that whole time. I was like, and I didn't write anything down, so I thought we were on a different question. Okay with time. Great. Question number 4. Please explain the council city manager form of government that we have here in Scappoose. What do you see your role as a counselor being if you were appointed in that form of government that we have here?
Yes. It's a good question. Okay, so I know there is a specific term for this and it's escaping me at the moment. So I'm going to explain the structure.
Not a test.
So we have a city manager that is responsible for the day-to-day operations and the management of the staff for our city. And our mayor is the individual who directly oversees the relationship and responsibility performance for the city manager in consultation with city council. So can you please repeat the last portion of the question?
Just out of that form of government that you've
Mhm.
explained, what do you see your role being as
Thank
a
you.
counselor?
So my role is first and foremost is to work with the rest of the council members in terms of issues that are coming to us and for us to figure out where we align or disagree. From there, how I see my role is when and if possible, if I have clarifying questions, to interact directly with city manager for those missing pieces of information, or if that's not available, then to work directly through the mayor to get those questions clarified.
How do you feel that disagreement and or debate among city council members fits in the decision-making process?
I think it absolutely fits in the decision-making process. You can have healthy debate amongst one another, and it's important to be able to get all of the issues and perspectives out on the table when we're considering making a decision that would impact 8,000 people or more. So I believe it's healthy, it should be expected, and we can work through it and be professional. We're adults. We can be professional and agree to disagree. But I think it's clear that coming out of those conversations, you have to be able to. It's about facts. It's not about emotion. You have to be able to clearly articulate what are the facts that we need to address in order to move forward together.
I have a follow-up.
Yes.
You had mentioned that one of the committees you sit on is the Planning Commission, and there was kind of a contentious decision made with the Buxton property. You had just mentioned that it's important to agree to disagree. It's about the facts, not emotions. Be professional. How do you feel about a decision that you don't agree on, and how you move forward with that with the committee or council that you're working with?
Sure. As long as I've made my position clear, I'm okay with it. At the end, I have to look at myself in the mirror and be accountable to what I represent. And so I have to represent the views and beliefs of the individuals that I interact and engage with. And if the decision goes the opposite way, it goes the opposite way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Marissa, again, thank you for putting your name in for the vacant seat. So what do you think the city of Scappoose is doing well?
So I think the city of Scappoose is recognizing the fact that we are at an inflection point as a community. Where there are several projects and programs that are geared towards our growth and conversations about how we grow. So I do appreciate the fact that the city had put together a 50-year committee that has brought in citizen input through the initial stages of a visioning statement and some outreach. So I think how we're going about approaching this inflection point is really good. I think what's going to be quite critical is what's going to be coming before City Council in a relatively short amount of time, are the decisions that need to be made with respect to code land use changes, as we look to what the next 50 years could be.
You, Counselor,
Yep. And so to, Marissa, to follow that question, what do you think the city of Scappoose can do better?
Well, I work for a company that one of our taglines is there's no finish line. So we can always improve. And if you're not improving, you're not winning. So I think
Wait,
there's
you work for Nike.
say just do it.
Sorry to
I
interrupt.
said one of the taglines.
love
We've got many.
Do you have
So,
examples of that, Marissa, of what you're talking about?
yeah, I think I would like to see, I think we could do more on citizen engagement in some of the projects that are coming forward. Um, I I think we're on a good start. When I joined this community 3 years ago, um, and through listening to listening to the council sessions and getting involved in activist work on the side, I can tell over the last 3 years they've made a lot of progress, and I think we can make more progress in that. I think it's really important that we have transparency with respect to the work that council's doing, um, to our citizens, so that we invite them to come in and participate. Because if you operate in a vacuum, and I got what our previous mayor was saying, he's like, man, we operate like in a vacuum. There's like hardly anyone that ever shows up sometimes. I think we can do a better job. We should do a better job of trying to build interest and bring different viewpoints in to help shape the policy.
Okay,
have a
thank
follow-
you.
Yep.
You had mentioned just more citizen engagement, transparency, and that recently there's more opportunities for that. Could you give an example of where we could improve in something? You said we're on the right track, but is there something in your eyes that you think we did that maybe we could shift a little bit, or moving forward we should do instead?
I think it's about how do we expand the reach outside of social media,
Okay.
of engagement, whether that's going to football events, like school events, wherever there's actual like more adults, not necessarily kids, but wherever the adults are, like the kids bring the adults,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I think if we go out more, so more personal connection, outreach in different avenues, to help build awareness
Okay.
could be an idea.
Counselor Holmes?
So in your opinion, what are 3 important issues facing the city of Scappoose today?
Growth, transportation, and natural resources. We only have so much land. We can only build so much. We only have a limited amount of natural resources. And our infrastructure is going to be critical to our growth. I believe that we should be taking a very metered approach in how we're approaching growth and what the impacts will be to the existing as well as to the future residents here.
What do you think the city of Scappoose should do to address these important issues?
I think there needs to be more citizen engagement and awareness. I'm not really sure how we need to get after that. But the 50-year committee is on the back end of their project. And there's a lot of work that's coming out of there that is going to have a major impact to this community. And I don't know if people really understand what's at stake. It can really change the look and feel of this community. And it's small things like waste management rates went up again. Our water bill rates went up again. Those were big increases. Even for me, for someone who I can afford to take it, it was still shocking. These are things that are like really just shockers to people I talk to in the community. So I think when we talk about that inflection point of where we are, we've only got so many natural resources. I know what the data is saying about our medium income is rising. We still have a large population whose medium income is not rising to all the newcomers, myself included, that have come in here. So when we do these increases, it's hitting them hard. So I think we just, I get we have to do these things, we have to take increases, but explaining the why behind it and or creating more affordable programs for people who cannot afford these. Don't want people to have to choose between I'm going to get groceries or am I going to pay my water bill?
You.
Thank you.
Tyler, Council President Grace.
We're almost done.
Sure.
Is there anything you would like to ask us?
What are you lacking in a council member that you are seeking for your team?
What I like to see is that we are all completely different. We all have a different job, point of view. We all grew up differently. Some grew up here, some didn't. So I like seeing variety of experiences so they can bring different experiences to the table. I'm not sure what we're really missing.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything missing per se, but I do think we do have some big kind of issues, decisions, and things that we'll be considering here, within the next 6 months or a year. And so having someone, I think, that has can kind of hit the ground running, that's got some background knowledge and has been engaged on some of these things, I think is going to be really important for that person to not only be successful, but for us to do the work that we'll be doing together as a council.
Me around, sports all my life, I guess I can't deny that is teamwork and being able to work as a team and not always agreeing, but being able to work professionally and work through it is someone that I'm always looking for, someone that I feel that will be a good member of the team and hold me accountable. I want somebody to hold me accountable, hold the city accountable. I want someone to push me and make me work hard as well. That's what
I think one of the things that gets me as a counselor as people have come in and out is the council agreements that we have. And one of those is how you represent the council as a whole or represent the city. And how are your intentions when you're not in this room with us? Or if you are speaking in this room, how are you representing our staff and each other? That's really important.
And then kind of as a quick follow-up, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Thank you for considering my application. I hope that my background and expertise is something that you think would be beneficial to the group. So, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
your time.
Thank you.
Hey. On Kangas. On in. Sure. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate your doing this and we're going to start with Andrew. We have about a set of 11 questions.
Excellent.
Hi, John. Welcome. Thanks for submitting your name for this vacancy. So the first question is, why are you interested in becoming a member of the Scappoose City Council?
So I noticed the posting while I was looking at some of the resources that we have for housing in the city of Scappoose. My daughters are attending college right now, and if they find themselves starting a family, like I did 22 years ago. Sorry, time flies. I would like Scappoose to be a place where kids can start. Right now, I'm not sure that's the case. I also know if you're severely disadvantaged, this is a very difficult place to find a home.
I think I have the next question, right?
Go ahead, Councilor Santiago.
Yes. Hello, John. So what unique skills and experiences would you bring to the city council position?
So I've been serving on boards for probably the better half no, more than 10 years. My services in on boards has been as advisory positions as well as in leadership positions. I'm currently the vice president now of Branches Corporation, the church here in Scappoose. I'm also the chairman of their board of directors and an elder at their church. And I also have been serving on the board of directors for a missions organization for the last 10 years. But I also work as a business analyst for Legacy Health. Been doing IT work for the last 20 years, and I work in identity management and process development. So I think the unique pieces that I bring together are a deep care for people, as well as identifying how people will work within systems as you set them up. And that combination can be very useful.
Thank you.
Holmes.
Yes, the position of city councilor is a time-consuming one. For example, we have bi-monthly council meetings, we have the work session before. Most of us get assigned to also attend another committee meeting or be a liaison for a group. You're prepping for meetings by reading reading through your council packets and all of that. So would you be able to devote the necessary time to adequately fill this position? Please describe your current time commitments and how you would be able to balance that.
Yeah, I do think I have time to fulfill those commitments. I wanted to get a perspective of what a counselor position would be like, and so I met with Pete, and we chatted for a couple of hours over the coffee shop. And he said the homework is probably the biggest deal, right? You have to come prepared, knowing what you're going to talk about, so that you're efficient in the meeting. And we talked through the kind of the challenge of the time commitment, and I thought it through, and I looked at the schedule of work that I'm doing, and I talked with several advisors and people that I work with, and identified that yes, this would be a benefit. This would be something that we can make room for. And with my kids both heading off to college, the house is quiet in the evenings.
What I had to wait for. Councilor Miller.
Please explain the council city manager form of government that we have here in Scappoose. What do you see your role as a councilor being if you were appointed?
We have I understand it's a unique system. Scappoose has been my home for last 47 years. So a strong city manager has been what I've known. And the mayor and the councilors set the direction, as I understand it, and the implementation is left to some fantastic staff who've been doing this for a long time. So that capacity of setting the direction and doing guidance, I believe, is the role of city council, and I'd be happy to be corrected if I'm off on that one.
I've been here about that long and had no idea that that's what we had up until the last year or two. So amazing.
He thought the mayor got
Yeah.
paid like an all the power.
Yeah.
And a huge paycheck.
Yeah.
Hi. How do you feel that disagreement and or debate among city council members fits into the decision-making process?
So everybody has a unique set of perspectives and thought processes. If I don't disagree with you, then I'm redundant and I'm not necessary. Right? And if you don't disagree with each other, you're not going to identify where your blind spots are and how this is going to impact the people that you serve. I think that disagreement is fundamental to figuring out a set of guidances to give to the city that will serve all of the people.
Thank you.
What do you think the city of Scappoose is doing well?
So in probably the last 10 years, our work on the parks has been fantastic, right? That really shown. But I think many people didn't see as much work on the infrastructure that is happening. And I know that there's been work on the infrastructure. So I say the park side, acknowledging, looking at the infrastructure, taking care of what we can, especially on the water side, has actually worked very well. I think, yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
Follow up.
Yeah, Ron, what do you think the city of Scappoose can do better?
I think that there's opportunity for engagement. I like the town halls and how engaging that's been. I think that there's still a lot of voices that don't feel heard. And I think potentially finding ways to bring in those voices will help us inform the future guidance that we do. And then I think the staffing issues over the last few years were challenges. Some of them handled great, some of them handled not so great. I wasn't a fan of a couple of them, but the staffing challenges are staffing challenges, right? From a council position, can influence. We don't have direct control over all of that.
Yes. We have a follow up.
I have a couple follow-up questions to that. You had mentioned more engagement aside from the annual town meeting, that there's a group of people perhaps that don't feel heard. Can you elaborate on a situation or an example of what is occurring in the city and they're not feeling heard about?
Yeah, so obviously doom scrolling through Facebook isn't a great way to find feedback.
Sure, I hear you.
But you see the voices there, right? And when you reach out to engage, sometimes they're just trolls. And sometimes they actually have some thoughtful ideas that they feel like are obvious to everyone, and why aren't we doing that? And then you look at the levers that you have to pull, and you're like, that's actually not a lever we have influence on. But let's talk. Let's see if there is something foundational to your disagreement with how we're doing things. Sometimes you get engagement there, and sometimes you don't. But I think just having coffee and tea with people.
And then you had mentioned, and if you don't feel comfortable getting into details, you had mentioned staffing issues over the last couple of years. Do you have a general follow-up comment on what that means?
Uh,
A certain department, a certain,
yeah, so having a school resource officer
okay,
who who's too friendly with uh, all the sides of the school wasn't helpful.
huh,
I think that that could have been caught earlier, and I don't know how.
okay,
But um, having the chiefs uh, have to go through a brutal process of being removed, and then have a lawsuit come back on that, I think there may have been opportunities there. I think that that could have been done better.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Santiago.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, John, what are the 3 important issues facing the city of Scappoose?
So I think uh, from my initial question, I talked a little bit about housing. I think that making sure we take care of the people who can't afford to be influential uh, is super duper important. Making space for people to live here, to start here. I think taking care of infrastructure allows uh, allows people to succeed as well. There's a lot of services that we provide that aren't immediately obvious to people, but we can choose to take care of our leaking water system. And uh, then I think the work on the parks is great. Um, see a lot of activity there. I think the work that you picked up from the town halls on sidewalks is great. I think there's a lot of great things to just keep going at. So I would say keep doing those things,
Mhm.
and then let's see if we have some opportunities in housing and infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
From Holmes.
So what do you think the city of Scappoose should do to address some of those issues that you just identified?
So I'll pick up housing first. I think that the system development charges that we instituted, uh, gosh, 10 years ago, maybe more. I think they upped the ante for starting a house in Scappoose. Also, the system um, of permits allows an expert to come in and make sure that your contractor or you are doing a great job. But I've built a house and I've remodeled a house in Scappoose. When I built a house, I used a contractor. When I remodeled the house, I did the work myself. When I was doing the work myself, having an expert come in and review my work was fantastic, right? We caught stuff that I didn't know I needed to get done. Uh, but apparently the contractor thought that Scappoose was a very difficult city to work with to pull permits. Uh, and if I look at some of the pieces of land in the city of Scappoose that are not being developed, I can see places where we could put uh, affordable housing without going to a big project. By perhaps meeting somewhere in the middle on the system development charges or the way we approach our permitting process, being more helpful to the people that need it.
Is there anything that you'd like to ask us?
Yeah, would love to know. Uh, what would you like to see uh, in your next counselor? What hole did Pete leave that you would like to see filled?
Well, Pete was very unique, so I don't think anybody can fill his shoes. He will always be missed. I think for me, a counselor that invests the time in being prepared for all of our meetings and decisions that we have to make is the most important. That's, that informs us as to what we talk about and how we basically decide everything up here. So just making sure that you take the time to read through the binder that we get before every meeting. There's so much context, so much important information that needs to be reviewed for anyone to be able to make a sound decision up here and be able to engage in dialogue too. We often don't always agree on everything, but I think we're always able to have really constructive conversations. But that can't happen if you don't read the information.
I'd like to see someone, as well as that, very passionate about Scappoose, wanting to see Scappoose be there for their kids and their grandkids, and really looking out for the best interests of everyone in this city. And the engagement, you've all brought it up, that's really big to me. And so I'm learning from all of you as well, of things that we need to do to increase that. So I'm looking for that, someone that's willing to put in the work, very passionate about Scappoose, ready to listen and hold me accountable, keep me to the task of doing the right thing for the city of Scappoose.
I'm always big on representing yourself outside the doors of these chambers and how you conduct yourself and represent the staff, engaging with citizens and clarifying their questions or directing them to staff to give facts, not just trolling whatever, that you mentioned happens.
Add something. I think for me, patience is a big one. I think we all, when we got elected, were really ambitious and passionate and wanted to see big changes. But it's important that there's a process. Process is there for a reason, and it's helpful to understand that some of the outcomes and things that we see out in the community that we want to change were set in motion like decades ago, right? And they just can't be untangled overnight. And they were made by city council 20 times before us, or a city manager, way long ago. So patience.
Reminds me then, passionate about Scappoose, but listening to the facts and facts and trying to decide everything.
I like to add to I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So I just like to echo what the Mayor Joe Backus is saying, and my fellow council members. Also, I'm looking for someone like the mayor said, we're all different backgrounds, different. Some of us grew up here, and some of us didn't. And so for me, it's respect with all of our differences, and that you're able to argue or not share the same opinion and be okay with it and respectfully. That's what I'm looking for.
I have the last question.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to share about yourself that you think would be helpful for us to know?
I'm very enthusiastic, and I like the answers that you gave for what you're looking for. I think I would be a great fit. I think it would take time for me to show you how, but I hope I've represented myself well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we are done. We will take a short break and begin our meeting. Anybody have any else you want to add to this?
Just real
Yeah.
quick, there's nothing in any of our language that states that he has to name the person and their vote. He can just say however many votes he really has to say who voted for who.
In Oregon, you cannot have secret ballot elections.
Okay.
So the record has to reflect how each counselor.
I just didn't, we've always done it that way, but when I was looking at the language today, I didn't see anything specific, but obviously it's because there's something greater than us that determined that. Perfect. So for those of you that don't know, he will say who you voted for.
Yes. Okay, so
It's a great
that will
moment.
probably, that'll be in about 15 minutes, is my guess. And this work session adjourned.
We're gonna start in 1 minute. I'm gonna go to the
Jeanette?
bathroom.
Still
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Are you